Joining us right now from Sporting Kansas City, once again, is Graham Zusi. Graham, welcome, my friend.
Thank you very much. Thanks for having me.
Pleasure's all mine, Graham. We really appreciate it. We know you got to get to a meeting in a little bit, so we won't keep you too long. Let's get right to it, Graham. This year, once again, will be no easy task for you and your mates. That Western Conference, you cannot take one game off. The Portland Timbers champs, LA Galaxy loading up, Vancouver loading up. On and on. It's got to be mentally a challenge for you and your guys to get up week in, week out because of your division and how close it is.
It certainly is a tight division, and any team can seem to take it. But what we're very happy about this year is the depth again that we have. We made some excellent moves in the off season to really bolster our team, and with some guys who were injured last year back in the swing of things, we really have a fantastic team with a whole lot of depth, especially with the amount of games we can potentially play this year. We've got MLS, we've got U.S. Open Cup, Champions League later on this year, and then obviously we want to do well in the MLS playoffs as well. I think that depth is really going to be tested for us.
And how important is that depth, Graham? How important is it that head coach Peter Vermes, one of the best in the business, really utilizes each and every player on that bench because of the amount of competitions you spoke about?
It's something that Peter does very well when he gets a chance to. We've been a little bit plagued with those injuries as of late, but knock on wood, everyone this year is looking good, and he certainly is going to have to use that depth, probably even more so than normal with those games. U.S. Open Cup and Champions League can really, with the travel, the extra travel, it can put a burden on your body, and to be able to feel pretty much two completely different teams, I think in the long run is really going to help us out.
Graham, you talked about the wear and tear on the body. We had Will Bruin on of the Houston Dynamo on a Friday, and we talked about a number of things. But one of the things we talked about, I'd like to get your thoughts as well, is the newcomers that come to this league, whether it's Kaká, Jovinko, Lampard, Pirlo, on and on. I don't think they realize the amount of travel. I don't think they realize the amount of time there is away from the family compared to their teams that they played with in Europe, where it was a lot closer, the distances, on and on. I think this is still a challenge for a lot of the newcomers.
I completely agree. And I actually saw a stat about this a couple weeks ago. The most traveled team in England, I think, traveled about 4,000 miles, and the least traveled team in the MLS was something like 13 or 14,000 miles. So, almost triple the amount of travel. And I agree. I don't think people realize how much traveling is done, and really the effects on the body that it has.
Graham, parity, that word was used when Will and I were speaking as well on Friday, and I believe it is something that has come to the league the last couple of years. I see it in the Western Conference. In the Eastern Conference, I got to be honest, I would say 3/4 of that division, a couple teams are still struggling, but I think this is great for the league. I think it's great to have the rivalries, the Cascadia Cup, Vancouver, Seattle, Portland, Dallas and Houston getting it on here in Toronto, Montreal. There's no love lost. I think this is great for the league and the way they have to market it all over the world, because you and I know China now is picking up steam.
Yeah, it's kind of the premise that this league has been built on, and it makes it very exciting. Any team at any day can go out there and beat someone else, and you look at the playoff system as well. That isn't very common around the world. You see a team who might not be at the top of the table, but maybe gaining steam towards the end of the year. A lot of times those teams go deep into the playoffs as well.
Graham, we had on a friend of mine and no stranger to you, former coach of yours, Sasho Sarowski, during the draft time. A couple more of his players drafted. One here, Tsubasa Endo with TFC. he might crack the lineup. I think that's great for himself and University of Maryland. And we talked about something that I'd like to ask you as well about. It's the word identity. And I've still yet to see this with USA under Jurgen Klinsmann, where you've played a lot. I've still yet to see this with a certain MLS team, but I'm starting to see it with a few NCAA teams, Maryland, Clemson, North Carolina. There's an identity. How important is it, Graham, in your mind, that certain MLS teams start to build an identity?
I think it's extremely important, and I think Sporting is a team who maybe more so than any other team in the league has really built that identity. And, you see teams talking about us, and they're always saying that they almost dread coming and playing against Sporting because it seems like the longest game of the year for them. So, we've built that identity about ourselves, and before the match is even played, you have people thinking about it. So, I think building that identity is a very important aspect of our game, and something I think we've been able to do.
Graham, you got a lot of great teammates getting ready to start 2016 season. But for me, one guy that doesn't get the respect he deserves under Jurgen Klinsmann, one guy that I believe if Jovinko didn't have the season he had, I think Benny Feilhaber could have been MVP easily. This guy is unbelievable in that midfield. He's just a character, a player, a guy that leaves it all out there. Talk about him.
Yeah, I think if you talk to everyone on our team, we scratch our heads as well. He was easily the most important player for our team last year, and just had so much effect on our season, and such a creative mind, which I think is a little rare in as a U.S. player. We get the stigma of being big, strong, athletic guys, and Benny's a guy who can break the game down with his mind as well. So, just a player who when he's on, we're on.
It's a great point you make. I've discussed this with many U.S. players on the past that have come on my show. Unfortunately, too many people in South America and Europe think the American player, even the Canadian player, is a robust, fast, physical player. But once they get into that box, they're lost. And I think that's starting to change in the U.S. of A. and in Canada with Kyle Larin, with Orlando. You saw that. So I think this is something that's going to go far, far away. Lastly, before we let you go, Graham, we really appreciate your time. I can't let you go without talking about a special visit you made at a hospital to a fan named Lee. Here's a gentleman that loved watching you, loved watching Sporting Kansas City, and you took the time to visit with this gentleman. Talk about it.
Oh, it was just a really neat story, and a guy who is such a positive person with everything he does, and just happens to be a massive Sporting fan as well from really the get-go back in the Wizards day as well. And I had the opportunity to go and meet him and spend some time with him, and I think I took as much out of that visit as he did. Just a great day, and love to give back to the fans because at the end of the day, that they're what makes this team and sports so special.
Graham, you're a humble guy, and I know a lot of MLS players are very humble. They're down to earth. They spend a lot of time with their fans. They make visits to hospitals. They don't want to be known. They've confided in me where they've taken maybe a youth team out for lunch or dinner where they really couldn't afford it, on and on. I think this is the story that MLS needs to get out there, is your brothers out there with different teams doing special things like this. Because, look, we all love different sports, but I think MLS, it's a special game. It's a special sport, and guys are really giving.
Absolutely. I couldn't agree more.
Graham, listen, good luck in 2016. We really appreciate your time. We'll let you go off to your meeting. And again, thank you so much for making time for us.
Thanks for having me.
Class act, top-notch gentleman, great player, and a guy that a lot of people know all over MLS, and a guy that people always watch when Team USA gets ready to play in whatever competition they're in. Graham Zusi, outstanding guy.